Liriope could tell her son was exceptionally lovely the moment she laid eyes on him. By the time Narcissus reached adulthood, this had been clear to all. Men and women tried to win his love and attention, but he didn't seem to be very interested in anyone. The nymph Echo, whose name comes from the Greek word for sound, was one of the women who fell in love with Narcissus. Echo was a talkative woman who frequently cut people off in conversations, but one day she made the error of assisting Zeus, the king of the Greek gods, in keeping his romantic relationships a secret from Hera, his wife. Every time Hera thought Zeus was seeing someone else, Echo would confuse the goddess by telling elaborate tales that gave Zeus time to leave. As soon as Hera realized what Echo was doing, she cursed her to never be able to speak her mind out loud again. Instead, Echo would only be able to repeat the last words spoken by someone else. Welcome to the History Realm. Today we will go over the story of Echo and Narcissus, a story full of tragedy and sorrow. It begins with Echo. Enthralled by Narcissus's appearance, she started spying on him after seeing him in the woods one day. There was a problem. Echo followed the kid and found herself drawn to him more and more. Echo could not communicate with Narcissus. The only way to let him know of her feelings was to wait for him to say something. At some point, Narcissus realized that he was being followed. "Who's there?" he said. "There," repeated Echo, still hidden. Unable to see who had called, Narcissus beckoned the voice to approach him. Echo leaped out without losing a second. She went to embrace Narcissus with her arms wide open. However, he was not as enthusiastic. "Take your hands off me. You're not going to put your arms around me. I would rather die than have someone like you ever touch me." Reluctantly, Echo said, "Touch me." Shocked and embarrassed, she vanished into the woods. With tears in her eyes, Echo fled into the forest. It was too harsh and too much to take. The love that she had felt for Narcissus was so intense and so obsessive that Echo could not accept the way he had treated her and decided to live alone in the wilderness. However, the thought of her rejection kept coming back. In the end, her feelings were so intense that her body withered away, and the only thing left behind were her bones and voice. Echo's voice kept living in the woods, and the hills are the place where she can still be heard. I wonder if Zeus ever tried to silence all those echoes in the woods because they know too much. On a side note, make sure you press the like button if you haven't already. Nevertheless, Echo's tragic end did not go unnoticed. Since she was very popular with the other nymphs and creatures of the forest, who were angered with Narcissus, since he caused her so much unnecessary suffering. Nemesis, the goddess of revenge, heard the voices calling for revenge from the forest and decided to help. Narcissus was drawn by Nemesis to a serene spring with glistening clear waters. Narcissus made the decision to stop and get some water as he was tired of hunting. He noticed the still waters as he sipped from the spring. He could see his face more clearly than ever in the natural mirror. He stared at his image more and more as he drank. Surprise turned into marvel, marvel into love, and love into an obsession. Narcissus was stuck in place. He was so consumed by the burning desire for the person he saw in the water of the spring. In vain he tried to embrace the idol, only to realize that the reflection in the calm water was none other than himself. If he left, he would lose sight of his only love, and so he began to panic at the realization that love may be out of his reach for good. The tiniest ripple in the water caused Narcissus to stress as the water mirror was disturbed, and he thought that his image would leave him. Lucky for him that it wasn't raining that day. Anyways, Narcissus eventually gave up on life, realizing how pointless his efforts had been, and eventually Narcissus took a seat on the grass. His compulsive love transformed into existential sorrow, and life started to desert his body. The following day, a flower with white petals and a yellow core stood where Narcissus had rested. This bloom is still referred to as the Narcissus flower. Now in the underworld, Narcissus still looks at his reflection in the Stygian waters, one of the rivers of Hades. And that, my friends, marks the end of our story. If you were captivated by this ancient myth, we invite you to subscribe and stay connected with our channel. I have also linked another great video here above for you to enjoy and keep the stories going. Until next time, on the History Realm.